Okay folks, I'm going to show you how to batch render a sequence in Arnold for Maya. So we've got our camera animating over 250 frames, and now we've got some nice renders out of it, and now what we want to do is we want to do a batch render using the render sequence by here. But first of all, let's go to render settings. So these are the samples I'm using, 4432. You use whatever you want. I just know my PC can handle this. Anyway, so first of all, we need to give it a name. So I'm going to call it dinner underscore set underscore. Yeah, just dinner underscore set. Use underscores rather than spaces. Image format, I'm going to go for PNG, I think. Yeah, PNG. Format, I'm just going to leave it to that. Not worry about them. Yeah, and color space, unless you want it to come out raw for color grading, keep it for this point for use view transform. Where it says frame/animation extension, yours is probably set to name single frame. And what it's going to do is it's just going to call it dinnerset.png, and that's just going to be one frame. But like when we've used Nuke before, if you have used Nuke before, it needs a hashtag. So the one to use is name underscore hashtag .ext. What that means is it says up here, dinnerset underscore, the hashtag counts as the number. So 0001 for frame 1, .ext is dot whatever extension you've used, so .png, okay? Start frame and end frame is 1 to 50 at the moment, but I want 250 frames because I've animated 250. So you'll see, if we just click out now, you'll see it's going to go dinner underscore set underscore 0001.png to dinner underscore set underscore 02. It's going to do 250 of them basically. So we've got that. Frame padding, look at the numbers up here. If we bring this up to 5, it just puts another 0 in there. If we bring it down at 3, it's only got 3 digits. So if we bring it down to here, it's not going to render all of your things. So just keep this. 4 is always quite a good one. Just keep that to 4. So give it a name, PNG, name underscore hashtag dot extension. Say the frames that you want. Make sure you're not rendering perspective unless you want to, but it's camera 1 that we've animated. Make sure it's 1920 by 1080. And then again, my samples, I could possibly bring this down to 3 and it'll cut it down from 592 to 333 samples. Probably will. But yeah, I'm going to leave it there for now because I know it'll handle it. Anyway, that's that. Inside your render view then, what you want to do is go to render sequence, and you can click this little option box. First of all, just remember, make sure you've set your project properly, and it's going to go to the Maya projects, dinner scene, and the images folder. And basically in here, I'm not going to go through too much of this, but what we want to do is now go to render sequence and click that, and you now need to leave your computer to it. So if you'll notice in mine, it's got a progress bar at the bottom by there, and it's on 0% at the minute, and it's going to go 1%, and it's going to carry on going. And what will happen then, once that reaches 100 for this frame, it'll then come up with an image, and it's going to do that 250 times. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause it as it does the first frame, and yeah, I'll unpause when it's got a few frames in here. So you can see now that my render view is rendering each frame, and then it's saving it out to my actual images folder. And you can see it's taking its time, but we've got image 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to image 15, and it's doing it one by one. It's taking a while to do each and every frame because I've got my settings quite high, but I've also got the time to do it. So yeah, it's going to do 250 images now, and then we will have our final render once all of these are complete, and we can play them back in a sequence inside of something like After Effects or not Photoshop. Well, you could in Photoshop, but After Effects or Premiere, where we can edit them together then into a nice sequence. So just a quick little update. I left this rendering all night, and I've got 9 seconds so far out of the 10 seconds. It's got 225 frames. Well, the 225th frame is all black. So it's got 224 frames out of 250. And let's have a quick look at what we've got. Keep an eye on the reflections in the fork by here. Okay. What you'll notice is actually, for the first half, for this part by here, let's zoom in. Look at the sort of reflections by there. They're very, very noisy. And I realised this, and it got to like frame, must have been like frame 100 108, 107, and I realised I needed to make some changes. So you'll notice there's a change by here, and I also changed some stuff in the glass. So I realised there was a lot of noise here, and what I ended up doing is making a few changes, and it's still not absolutely perfect, but it's, you know, if we're zoomed out, we can't notice it. So what I actually had to do is I had to come in and make one or two changes. So I went into the material of the chrome by here. So I went to material attributes, and in the roughness, this was on absolute 0. I put it up to 0.2. When you've got thin objects that are extremely reflective, you can sometimes just get that sort of noise anomaly. It's called fireflies because of, you know, sort of speckles and jumps around. So I had to go into the material and just put the roughness to 0.2. I also went into the plate material and I did the same there. So material attributes of the plate, and I went to 0.2. I also went into the Arnold renderer settings, and I changed some of my settings around. I put the diffuse on 2, the specular on 2, the transmission on 2, but the anti-aliasing, I whacked that all the way up to 7, and that's going to really increase my maximum samples to 1200. It was on like 600 before. But that was the two things I did to solve that. So going into the material and putting the roughness up to 0.2, and the anti-aliasing, I've chucked that up to 7. Bear in mind, the anti-aliasing, as you increase this, it increases. Let's look, specular samples are on 392, but as I increase this to 8, 648, it increases everything below. So you just got to bear that in mind. So I made sure diffuse was on 2, spec was on 2, transmission 2, these two can be on 0. And yeah, camera anti-aliasing I put to 7, and that helps get rid of that. So when we bring this back across, I then carried on rendering from frame 109 onwards, and you can see now, looking at the highlight by there and the highlight by here, this is working a lot better. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to go back and re-render frame 1 to frame 1 to 107. And yeah, that'll help then. So yeah, that's the little thing I did there. Also the glass, if you look at the glass, it was, in the render I was thinking it's coming out a bit dark. So all I did to make it lighter over there is I went into the ray depth and I increased the transmission to 10. All this means is how many times a light ray or light particle can bounce round and go through a piece of glass, and it was set to like 3 before, so it could only bounce around inside glass 3 times. I just increased this, and it really helped get a nicer look. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to carry on rendering, because I've got up until, if we check my folder, I've got up until frame 224 done, so I'll delete this black frame at 225. The way I stopped rendering halfway through was just by going into Maya and hitting the escape button. You have to hit escape quite a few times because it was just stuck in the middle of doing a render. Anyway, if I want to render frame 225 to 250, all I need to do just to render that section is to go 225 and to frame 250. So that's how you render sort of segments. I'm going to have to re-render the first bit as well, so I'll do frame 1 to 109 or whatever it was. But yeah, so now I'm just going to come back into the render view, and I'm going to go render sequence, and I don't want to change any of these, so I'm just going to go render sequence. And now it's just going to carry on rendering the whole sequence, okay? So what I'll do is I'll do a little recording now when it's done at the end, and I'll show you that end finished render. So I've now finally rendered my dinner scene. You can now see all the images in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the final result by bringing it into After Effects. So I'm going to double click here, and I'm just going to navigate to the folder, which is dinner scene, images, and I'm going to click the first image, make sure PNG sequence is enabled because it'll import them as a sequence, click import, and now I've got, let's just have a quick look, it's interpreting it as 30 frames per second, and I don't want that. I want to work at 25 frames per second. So all I'm going to do is right click, go to interpret footage, main, change this frame rate to 25, and now I can just click this down into the new composition icon, and what I've got now, if I make sure, yeah, this is fit into screen, I can play through, and this is my final render. So let's just give it a play through. And you can see that's our final product. Now this did take a long time to render, probably altogether it probably took about 12 to 16 hours because I did it in different chunks as well. But yeah, so you can see we got a nice looking scene now. Nice textures going on here, materials and all that. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this little series. I hope you found it useful. I hope you learned some stuff. And yeah, I hope to see you in some future video tutorials. So cheers.